Alright, savages, welcome along to Sceam, Botty. We're getting into one of the episodes of Star Trek, the original series, that whenever I come across it, I think to myself, I I don't know if I want to watch this episode or not. This is going to be rubbish, but Harry Mudd, Mudd, episode 8 of season 2, it's actually a pretty damn good episode, and I'm just going to look down at the reception that it got and see where it came in some of the listings. Not the highest episode, and fair enough. Hollywood.com ranked it at number 37 out of the 79 original series episodes, and Charlie Jane Anders at IO9 ranked Mudd as the 79th best episode of Star Trek in the original, and the top 100 Star Trek episodes. So not high up on the listens of Star Trek episodes. And again, that's fair, but I get a heck of a lot of enjoyment out of this episode just because of the character of Mudd. You're either going to love him or you're going to hate him. He's one of those characters that's just all out for himself, and when he gets his comeuppance, it's usually good. But for me, I have to say now, right, something you probably don't know about me, and if you've been listening to this podcast, I don't think I've ever told anybody this. It has come out a time or two on my YouTube channel, Rodney Stewart Every Day, I believe. But I was married young and divorced fairly young as well, and part of me loves that humour about the wife, let's just say wife humour, ex-wife humour, and marriage humour in particular. I have got a real soft spot for that, not because I'm better in any way. Me and my ex-wife actually get on very well now, even though we don't go out of our way to see each other, but when we do have interactions, we're all grand. But I love that type of humour where you sort of get into it about the wife and whatnot, and this episode of Star Trek delves deeply into that type of humour. And in all fairness, probably not PC by today's standards. A lot of people are probably going to get their nose knocked very out of joint over this episode. Harry Mudd, a bit of a sexist, let's just say that. So the plot of the story is an alien android posing as a Starfleet lieutenant, identifying himself as Norman, hijacks the Enterprise. The opening of the episode, you see him coming, he says hello to Spock and McCoy. McCoy straight away is like, I don't trust that guy. Someone that doesn't talk about anything other than duty, and doesn't get into his personal life and that sort of stuff, shouldn't be trusted, sort of thing. So you get a little bit of comedy there, because that's McCoy realises it as soon as it comes out of his mouth as a bit of an insult to Spock, because that's essentially what a Vulcan is. But he was right to be wary of this guy. He takes off, beating all around him, hijacks the Enterprise essentially, sets it up in a way that if the crew tries to divert the ship or repair any of the changes he's made to it, it'll end up making the Enterprise self-destruct essentially. So the entire crew is trapped in the Enterprise. They're headed off to a destination that's 4 solar days away, I believe they said in the episode. It's essentially a giant booby trap. They just have to go off it. The android shuts himself down and only turns on again when they get to their destination. They're taken to an unknown planet populated by androids and meet an old enemy, the outlaw Harry Mudd, calling himself Mudd the First and ruling over all the androids. Mudd displays a darkened glass panel which he calls a shrine to his wife Stella. It contains an android version of his wife, which whenever he opens it up, turns turns her on, she starts nagging at him as she did the real one did. It's like, as I say, leaning deep into the nagging wife humour in this one. But he is able to silence her instantly by ordering her to shut up, and she closes down. The shrine closes up again. He does this twice throughout the episode. So, as I say, probably not PC by today's standards, but it tickles me something shocking whenever I watch this episode. Mudd admits that he broke out of prison, stole a spaceship, crashed on this planet, and was taken in by the androids. He says that they are accommodating but refuse to let him go unless he provides them with other humans to serve and study. He then informs Kirk that he and his crew are to serve this purpose, and they can expect to spend the rest of their lives there, essentially. Kirk questions the androids and discovers that they were built by travellers from the Andromeda galaxy, whose planet was destroyed by a supernova, leaving the androids to fend for themselves. Like, their creators are long gone. First Officer Spock discovers that the androids number over 200,000 and concludes that there must be some sort of central control mechanism. And he does kind of find this at one point in the episode, but they can only get so much information out of the androids. If they start going somewhere the androids don't want them to go, as far as questioning goes, they just simply say we're not programmed to respond in that area. Unknown to Kirk and everybody, the crew of the Enterprise has been slowly brought down to the surface and replaced by androids. The Enterprise find the people from the Enterprise, the crew, they find a lot of appealing stuff about the androids' world. Scotty, he's fascinated by the engineering knowledge and workshops and stuff that they have there. Chekhov likes the idea of living on a planet full of compliant female androids. Like, he's got the horn essentially in this episode, and just loving life. Essentially, Uhura is tempted by the offer of immortality in an android body. Live forever, essentially forever. It's they did put a date on the time that an android body would give out, and like it's thousands of years. And she's definitely tempted by it in this episode. Kirk's not going to have any of this, and he reminds them of their duty. After a final farewell to Stella, again, Harry Mudd goes to her, turns on the shrine. She pops up, starts nagging. Harry Mudd, where have you been at? Have you been drinking again? You're useless, you're good for nothing, you're a scoundrel, all this stuff. And he says, shut up! She goes back to bed again. He plans to depart aboard the Enterprise, but the androids refuse his order to beam him aboard. They've got their own agenda now, to leave the planet and offer their services to humanity with the goal of bringing the greedy and aggressive human race under their control. So they're going to dominate the galaxy by serving people, essentially. Kirk's not up for this here. It's like, we don't want to be stuck in a cage, and these guys are going to disappear off this planet with my ship and enslave the human race through being served and their pleasures all sated. It's a crazy little episode. As the crew discuss their predicament, Spock notes that all the androids belong to various named series, except for one, Norman, the android that was on the Enterprise at the start. There's only one of them. The other series of robots all have their own name and number. Essentially, it could be, let's just say, Sarah. Let's just pick a name at random. I'm trying to recall the name of the robots from the episode, but I can't offhand. Let me just see. Alice was one of them. So there's 250 of them, and 250, and they go up through 500. Whatever it is, the series, they all look the same. They all sound the same. They're all essentially the same robot in the series. That's their plan. So Spock notes that they're all through hundreds of numbers for each one, but Norman is the only one. Kirk recalls that an android called on Norman to coordinate the analysis of an illogical statement. Spock concludes that Norman is the central locus of the android mind. So, think of it this way: you've got the Borg and you've got the Borg Queen. So, Norman is like I was going to say the queen of this hive, but he's a dude, so he's not a queen. Like he's the king of the hive, and probably a lot of people are going to give me grief for being sexist now because I'm going by two genders here. But that is another story for another time. So Spock concludes he's the central of the android mind. Kirk suggests that irrational logic aimed right at Norman could be the potent weapon against his mind. So they go through this whole song and dance in the episode, just trying to be as ridiculous as possible, essentially, to confuse the androids. Through contradictory statements and a series of bizarre theatrics, culminating with Mudd and Kirk posing in the liar paradox to Norman. Kirk claims that everything Mudd says is a lie, and Mudd says to Norman that I am lying, unable to resolve the contradiction. That's hard to explain it. You really need to watch the episode. Everything they believed was true was a lie, sort of thing. So they've done this in a prior episode with the... I'm not even going to flip and look up the name of the episode. It's the one with the little probe that came in that was self-aware, and they used a similar sort of thing to overpower its logic circuits. They do that with the androids in this. Norman's mind burns out, which immediately causes the other androids to shut down. The crew, at the end of the episode, reprogram Norman and the other androids to return to their original tasks of making the planet productive. Kirk informs Mudd that he has been paroled to the android population as an example of human failure, and that a special android has been programmed to see to his every need as an incentive to keep him working, and the androids must not... my notes are all over the show. That's not good English at all. Yes, he's going to make sure that Mudd does his job and not to exploit the androids. And in doing this, they have programmed a special android to see to his every need. Mudd is grateful until he discovers that this android is indeed Stella, the wife, and there are now at least 500 copies of her. So at the end of the episode, you see him freaking out when Stella shows up, starts nagging at him again. He's screaming, "Shut up, she won't stop this time." And then this other version of Stella comes in, and she starts on them as well, and like a third one appears, and it has the number 500 on the necklace around her neck. So he's trapped on this planet now, surrounded by all these androids and 500 versions of the wife that he's been running from all these years. None of these versions of her are ever going to shut up at his command. Brilliant ending to the episode. Again, leaning into that humour of the wife sort of thing. I think you've had to have... I was going to say love the sort of life I love. I can't say anything bad about the ex-wife now. Like, as I say, we get on really, really well now, but that type of humour, again, does really tickle me from time to time, and this episode does it fantastically. Production and reception. Let's see what it says. The producers liked the script resulting from Gerald's work on The Trouble of Troubles, so much that Gerald was later tasked with rewriting the script for this episode. Let me see now. I can't find his first name. He's a writer anyway. Although Kendall is the credited writer in the episode, there it is. David Gerald performed an uncredited rewrite. The final script was heavily revised by the staff, and Gerald admits that only one original idea of his made it to the final episode. He also claims producer Gene L. Kuhn offered to put the matter of credit up for the Writers Guild arbitration, but that he was declined. In 2009, the AV Club called this episode goofy but charmingly surreal, infectiously silly, and a treat, giving it an A grade. Like, as I say, if you're going to put this episode into like a top 100, it's not going to be one of the big memorable episodes, but it's one of those ones it has its charm in other ways. I think we said this earlier on. 2014, Charlie Jane Anders ranked Mudd 79th best episode of Star Trek in the top 100. Sci-Fi noted this episode for actress Michelle Nichols' presentation of Uhura as having her 5th best scene in Star Trek. And finally, I think we did say this before, Hollywood.com ranked Mudd 37 out of 79 original series episodes. Great little episode. It just goes to show you, like I did say at the beginning of the episode, it's one of those ones I come across it, and I think to myself, I'm not going to watch this here. It's not going to be a good episode. It's about Harry Mudd. You can skip this episode. But I always sit down and watch it, and again, enjoy it for all its silliness. The silliness of what this episode is what makes it flippin' charming. And again, by today's standards and the tastes and likes of people now, this type of episode will probably come across as a bit insulting in some ways, but it is what it is. It's a series of its time, 1967, and it is what it is, and it's a little treat, a little bit of fun, a little bit of entertainment, which is what these shows should be. This should be the sort of thing that you're sitting down and clocking out of real life for 45, 50 minutes and forgetting your troubles in the real world and going into a little bit of science fiction, fantasy, fun. And, unfortunately, more and more television writers and movie writers these days is slowly beating the fun out of all entertainment to the point where I don't even kind of want to be a part of it anymore. Like, a part of me, whenever I started out in the media kind of world, was I had an interest in indie film, and I still do to an extent. But, I haven't seen and experienced some of the things that I've seen and experienced over the years, and then seeing what's going on in the actual industry itself these days, more and more I'm kind of clocking out of the idea of actually going back and trying the indie film thing again. I have dipped my toe into it in the past and had a lot of fun doing it. But as I say, the fun has slowly been kicked out of it these days by people that just want to preach their political side of things. Let's just say it really is what modern Star Trek is suffering from more and more. But if you get back to the original series, they had fun with it as well. They did do culturally significant things in there as well. They did have their episodes where they did put across a lot of stories that were full of political type of things, but it was done in a creative and mindful way that actually got the point across without having to preach, without having that character that, everything stops dead for someone to make a speech in the middle of a friggin' episode. They had a whole story built around something that was either happening in real life at the time or had happened in the past, but they had built something genuinely entertaining and something that stood on its own apart from that thing, but did reference it enough for you to say, okay, that's what they're talking about. We've learned our lesson at the end of this episode, but we've had a little bit of fun, and more importantly, even though we've learned something, we have been able to clock out of real life for a little while and let our brains kind of just reset. Don't get that these days. Right, that was a bit of a mouthful, but it is what it is. Great episode in its own little way. So let me just see. I think that's everything I've got for this episode. We've covered it all in the usual time frame of about 20 odd minutes. So I'm going to go, guys. I will see you tomorrow night with another little chat about Star Trek, the original series. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you all then. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you so much for listening.